Julian Burnside is a leading barrister and human rights and refugee advocate. Julian Burnside, lovely to have you with us on The World. Thank you so much for your time. Does the PNG government have any choice but to respond to the Supreme Court decision?
I think they have to obey it. I suppose there might be ways of them trying to work a way around it, but the court decision is pretty clear, and I think that they will probably respect the decision of their court and close the detention centres.
Which would be remarkable in itself. They did try and amend the Constitution originally to allow for this arrangement to be in place, and that was ruled on today. Do you think they'll have a second crack at that?
Well, they might, but the problem is the Constitution, which I think we drew for them, requires, first of all, it provides generally that people can't be locked up except, you know, if they've been convicted of an offence and that sort of thing. And any amendment to the Constitution has to be consistent with respect for basic human dignity and respect for international convention obligations. And what the Supreme Court said was that their attempt to patch it up last time did not even attempt to justify the incarceration of innocent people so as to comply with the constitutional requirements. Now, I think it's really important because here we have a judgment of a superior court in a country which is directly involved in our asylum seeker system, which plainly recognises that these people have not committed any offence, and that's the case, and who are just human beings, and their personal human rights ought to be respected.
This is going to be a real test of the rule of law for the PNG government, and we've seen with even in recent days against the Fraud Investigation Unit that they have been hitting back and not accepting their judgment. Of course, it is a very different level. Are you confident that they will respect the rule of law?
Your guess is as good as mine. I would hope that they will. But then, given that Australia throws millions of dollars at them to do our dirty work for us, I guess it's possible that they'll try and work around it.
The government today, Peter Dutton, the Immigration Minister, has said this ruling does not affect Australia's immigration policy, that no person on Manus or Nauru would be resettled in Australia. Where does this leave people should that centre be closed down?
Well, I would expect that the first thing Australia would do is take people from Manus and put them in Nauru on the assumption that Nauru is prepared to take more people. Whether that's a durable solution is a really interesting question. I suspect it's not. First, I mean, Nauru is tiny. Nauru is 21 square kilometres, hasn't got enough food or water for its own people. Now, whether we can throw enough money at Nauru to make it worth their while is an interesting question. And whether they'll tolerate it for long is another question. Now, if Nauru can't hold them, if
and there's 850 people on Manus, yes.
Yeah, that's right. It's about, in total 1,300. I think there's about 500 or so on Nauru. I think it would be difficult.
Unlikely to be able to expand to that level. Yeah.
Difficult, yeah. And whether they'll be moved from Manus to Christmas Island, that's a real possibility.
Australian territory, though.
Yeah, Australian territory, true. Of course, Christmas Island was being prepared for people to be moved from Nauru to there in advance of the M68 judgment that the High Court handed down in early February.
The Supreme Court government today in PNG is saying the Australian government should respect this ruling too. What are the legal parameters for them to do that?
The Australian government has been ordered by the PNG Supreme Court to cease detaining people straight away in the Manus Island detention centre. Now, I can think of a couple of ways that they might step around that while maintaining their present setting.
Give us an idea.
I don't want to give them ideas.
Okay, but give us a sense of what they may be.
Well, I suppose if they declare the place is open, then no matter that changes nothing for the people held there, that might step around the judgment, or it might open the way for another attempt whilst they sort out something else. Beyond that, I'm not too sure, but I'm sure that there are people in Canberra who are much more intelligent than Peter Dutton who will be thinking about this.
So do you think this is a permanent blow to offshore processing, today's judgment?
It has the potential to limit offshore processing as a solution. It doesn't affect the situation in Nauru, although I would have thought a similar argument is available in Nauru, because Nauru also has a constitution which has explicit human rights built into it. But I would be reluctant to say that it ends offshore processing, because frankly what our government is capable of coming up with is anyone's guess. I only hope one thing. If, as I suspect, Turnbull wins the election in July, maybe then he will have the decency to act according to his conscience, because he'll be freed of a hostile party room.
Really good to get your thoughts on this tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.